The sky turned red as flames ate the small colony of New Seoul. Lieutenant Ta Kim ran through the burning streets. Smoke filled his lungs. His legs hurt, but he could not stop. Behind him, the howls grew louder. Ta ducked into a broken building and pressed his back against the wall. His hand gripped his rifle tightly. Sweat ran down his face inside his helmet. Through the cracked visor, he watched as shadows moved across the street. They walked on two legs but were not human. They had fur. They had long snouts. They looked like wolves from Earth, but much bigger. The aliens called themselves the Wolven. They always hunted in packs. 5 of them stopped near his hiding spot. Their noses lifted to the air, trying to catch his scent. Tai held his breath. "Find the human," growled the largest one. "No survivors." Tai's mind flashed back to just hours ago. His team had been on patrol when the Wolven ships appeared in the sky. Hundreds of them. The colony's defenses didn't last long. "Captain Han, we need backup," Ta had shouted into his radio. "There is no backup," Captain Han had answered. His voice was calm even with explosions in the background. "Everyone is dead or fighting. Get to the mountains. Take the data. Someone must survive to warn Earth." Now Captain Han was dead too, just like everyone else in Ta's squad. The Wolven moved on, turning down another street. Ta waited another minute before moving. The data chip felt heavy in his pocket. On it was everything Earth would need to know about the Wolven attack. Ta slipped out of the building and headed toward the edge of the colony. The mountains stood tall in the distance. If he could reach them, he might survive. A scream cut through the air. Ta stopped. It was human. He shouldn't go back. His orders were clear. Get to the mountains. Survive. Warn Earth. But Ta turned anyway. In the colony square, the Wolven had gathered. In the center stood a young woman. Blood ran down her arm. She held a broken pipe as a weapon. Around her, 10 Wolven circled slowly. "The human fights alone," one Wolven said. "How pathetic." "Humans are weak because they think as individuals," another added. "They do not know the strength of the pack." The woman swung her pipe at the nearest Wolven. It jumped back and laughed. Tai raised his rifle. He had one shot before they would all be on him. He aimed at the largest Wolven, clearly the leader. The rifle fired. The shot hit the leader in the head. The other Wolven turned in shock. "Run," Ta shouted to the woman. She didn't hesitate. Tai fired 3 more shots, dropping 2 more Wolven. Then he ran 2, in a different direction from the woman. The pack howled in anger and chased after him. Ta knew the colony streets well. He ducked through narrow alleys and jumped over fallen debris. The howls sometimes got closer, sometimes farther away. He didn't stop running. When he finally reached the edge of the colony, he paused to look back. Fires burned everywhere. The colony of New Seoul, his home for the past 3 years, was lost. The mountain path stretched before him, steep and rough. Night was coming. The Wolven hunted best at night, but Ta had no choice. As he started climbing, a memory came to him, his grandfather on Earth, telling him old stories. Tales of Korean warriors who stood alone against armies, men who had the hearts of lions. "Remember, Ta," his grandfather had said, "one brave heart can be stronger than 100 fearful ones." Ta climbed higher into the mountains. The howls of the Wolven echoed behind him. He was the last human soldier on New Seoul, the lone survivor. But he was not finished fighting. 3 days passed since Tai escaped the burning colony. His legs ached from climbing. The mountain air was cold at night, but he was alive. Tai found a small cave high up the mountain. It was hidden behind large rocks and tall trees. From there, he could see the colony below. Smoke still rose from the ruins. He checked his supplies: half a canteen of water, 2 meal bars, a rifle with 27 shots left, a small med kit, and the data chip that held information about the Wolven attack. Not much, Ta said to himself, but enough. The first day, he just rested and watched. The wolven were still in the colony. They moved in groups, searching buildings, hunting. The second day, Ty explored the area around his cave. He found a small stream for water. He set traps for small animals. He gathered plants he knew were safe to eat. The third day, he began to make plans. Ta spread dirt on his combat suit to hide its shine. He tied branches to his helmet and back to blend with the trees. Then he went down the mountain, moving slowly and carefully. He needed to know more about the enemy. He needed better supplies. Most of all, he needed to find out if other humans had survived. As the sun began to set, Tide reached the edge of the colony. He stayed low, watching the wolven patrols. They moved in groups of 5 or 6, never alone. Tide noticed they avoided certain areas. The wolven didn't like the water treatment plant. The smell was too strong for their sensitive noses. That would be a safe place to search. He waited until dark, then moved. Keeping to shadows, Ty made his way to the plant. The large metal building was damaged but still standing. The door was open. Inside, Ty used his helmet light on its lowest setting. The plant was quiet except for the drip of water. He found a storage room with tools. He took a knife, some wire, and a small flashlight. Then he heard a noise. Something fell in another room. Ty turned off his light and raised his rifle. He moved toward the sound, each step silent. In the main control room, he saw movement, a shadow against the wall. Too small for a wolven. "Come out slowly," Ty whispered. "I won't hurt you if you're human." The shadow stopped moving. Then a quiet voice answered, "I'm human. Please don't shoot." A woman stepped into view. She wore a lab coat, dirty and torn. Her face was thin from hunger. "My name is Jin Su," she said. "I was a scientist here. I study animal communication." Ta lowered his rifle. "Lieutenant Ta Kim, I thought everyone was dead." Jin shook her head. "Not everyone. I've been hiding here since the attack. The wolven don't come here because of the chemicals." "Are there others?" Ty asked. "I don't know. Maybe. I've been afraid to look." They shared what food they had. Jin told Ty what she knew about the wolven. "They are pack hunters," she explained. "They think as a group. That's why they find humans strange. We act as individuals." "Is that a weakness we can use?" Ty asked. Jin was quiet for a moment. Then her eyes widened. "Yes," she said. "The wolven fear something. On this planet, there's a large cat-like animal that hunts alone. It can take down several wolven by itself. They call it the Night Stalker in their language." "A lone predator," Ta said. He thought about it. "A single hunter that scares packs." "Exactly," Jin said. "The wolven believe group strength always wins. The Night Stalker proves them wrong. They fear it deeply." Ta looked at his dirt-covered combat suit. "We could use that fear." "How?" Jin asked. Ta stood up. "First, we go back to my cave. It's safer there. Then we plan. The wolven think they've destroyed us. They think humans are weak because we fight alone." He checked his rifle. "I'll show them how dangerous one human can be." A week passed in the mountain cave. Ta and Jin worked together to change Ta's combat suit. They added sharp metal pieces to the shoulders and arms. They painted it with dark colors from plants and soil. They attached curved claws to the gloves. When Ta put it on, he no longer looked human. He looked like a predator. "The Night Stalker has marks on its face," Jin said. She painted 3 red lines across Ta's helmet. "Now you look like their nightmare." Tai checked his weapons, his rifle, the knife he took from the water plant. 4 small bombs he made from things Jin helped him find. "I'll be back before morning," Ta told Jin. "If I'm not, take the data chip and try to reach the emergency station on the other side of the mountains." Jin nodded. "Be careful. Remember what I told you about their patrols." Ta moved down the mountain in the darkness. The Wolven had set up a main camp in the center of the ruined colony, but they also had smaller camps around the edges. One such camp was his target tonight. He found it just where Jin said it would be. 5 Wolven sat around a fire. 2 others walked the perimeter as guards. 7 total. Todd watched them from the shadows. He remembered what Jin told him about Wolven behavior. They rely on their sense of smell, she had said, but strong odors confuse them, and they panic when separated from the pack. Tay took out a small bundle of leaves and stems Jin had prepared. He lit it with a spark from his knife against a rock. The plants began to smoke. The smoke smelled very strong, like rotten food. He placed the smoking bundle near the camp, letting the wind carry the smell to the Wolven. The effect was immediate. The Wolven around the fire stood up, noses in the air. They growled in confusion. "What is that smell?" one asked. "Check the woods," another ordered. 2 Wolven moved toward the smoke, just what Tay wanted. He circled around, silent in his modified suit. He approached the 2 guard Wolven from behind. The first one never saw him coming. Tay's knife found its throat, cutting off any sound. The second guard turned, but too late. Tay's rifle butt struck its head. The Wolven fell without a sound. Now came the important part of the plan. Tay dragged the dead Wolven to a tree. He used his knife to make 3 long cuts across its chest, the same pattern as the marks on his helmet. He wanted the Wolven to know this was not random. This was a hunt. He moved to a new position and threw one of his bombs far from the camp. It exploded with a loud bang. The 5 Wolven at the fire jumped up. "What was that?" they shouted. "Go check," the leader ordered. "You 3 that way. You 2 with me." They were separating. Perfect. Ta followed the group of 3. When they were far enough from the others, he struck. He dropped from a tree onto one Wolven, his knife finding its mark. The other 2 turned in shock. Ta stood slowly. In the moonlight, his modified suit made him look like something from a nightmare. The red marks on his helmet seemed to glow. "What are you?" one Wolven asked, fear in its voice. Ta didn't answer. He just moved forward, fast and silent. Later, he returned to his mountain cave. Jin was waiting. "Did it work?" she asked. Tay removed his helmet. His face was tired, but his eyes were bright. 7 Wolven, all dead. He placed something on the ground between them. A Wolven communication device. "And I got this." Jin smiled. "Now we can hear their plans." Ta nodded. "And they will tell stories about what happened tonight, about a lone hunter that comes in the dark." The device suddenly made a noise. A voice spoke in the Wolven language. Jin listened carefully. "What is it?" Tai asked. Jin looked up, surprised. "A new Wolven leader has arrived. Someone called Dairan. He's bringing a war pack to hunt down whoever killed the patrol." "Good," Ta said. "Let them come." "There's something else," Jin said. "They have a name for you now. They're calling you Lionheart." 2 weeks passed. The name Lionheart spread among the Wolven. Ta struck 5 more times. Always at night. Always leaving the same 3 marks. Always vanishing before help came. The Wolven began to fear the dark. Tonight, Tai watched a new Wolven patrol from the trees. These soldiers wore better armor. They carried stronger weapons. They moved in a tight group, backs to each other. They were afraid. "They're learning," Ta whispered to himself. The Wolven leader, Dairan, had doubled the patrols. He had ordered his soldiers to never split up. He had promised to kill any Wolven who spoke of fear. But Ta could smell their fear anyway. He followed this patrol for an hour, looking for a chance to strike. But they were too careful, too tightly grouped. Tai was about to leave when he heard something new. Human voices. The patrol had found someone. Ta moved closer, still hidden in the trees. 4 humans stood surrounded by the Wolven patrol. 3 men and 1 woman. They wore dirty clothes. They looked hungry and tired. More survivors, One Wolven said, "Take them to Dairan." "Kill them here," another argued. "Dairan has enough human prisoners." Ta had to act fast, but there were 10 Wolven, too many for a direct attack. He thought about Jin's words. The Wolven fear the unknown more than anything else. Tai took out the Wolven communication device he had stolen. He had learned how to use it. He pressed a button and spoke into it, changing his voice to sound deeper. "Enemy spotted in Section 6, he said in the Wolven language. "Need backup now." The patrol leader's ears perked up. He touched his own device. "This is Patrol 4. We found humans. We are in Section 8, not 6. Emergency in Section 6, Tate repeated through the device. "All units respond." The patrol leader looked confused. He growled in frustration. "U5, stay with the humans," he ordered. "U4, come with me to check Section 6. The patrol split up. Exactly what Tai wanted. He waited until the leader's group was out of sight. Then he threw 2 small objects into the remaining group of Wolven. Smoke bombs. Not deadly, but they filled the air with thick smoke. The Wolven howled in confusion. They couldn't see. They couldn't smell anything but the smoke. Ta moved in. With quick strikes, he took down 2 Wolven before they knew what was happening. The others fired their weapons blindly. "Run," Ta shouted to the human survivors. "That way." Now, the humans didn't need to be told twice. They ran through the smoke. One Wolven tried to stop them. Tai's knife found its back. Another turned toward the sound and fired. The shot missed. Tai's didn't. When the smoke cleared, 5 Wolven lay dead, each marked with 3 cuts. The humans were gone. Ta moved quickly through the forest, following the humans. He found them hiding in a dry river 2 miles away. "Are you hurt?" he asked, stepping out of the shadows. The humans jumped in fear. Then they saw he was human too, despite his strange suit. "You're the Lionheart," one man said. His eyes were wide. "We heard stories about you from other survivors." "Other survivors?" Tai asked. "How many?" "Maybe 30, the woman said, hiding in small groups. The Wolven have captured some. They keep them in the old science building." The oldest man stepped forward. "I'm Ho-sun. I was an engineer in the colony. This is Jun, Nari, and Jai. I'm Ta Kim." Ho looked at Ta's modified suit with interest. "That's clever work. I could help make it better if you have tools." Ta nodded. "I have a safe place. Food and water too. But it's a long climb." "Anything is better than being caught by the Wolven," Nari said. "We'll follow you, Lionheart." The name felt strange to Ta, but he saw the hope in their eyes. These people needed something to believe in. "Stay close," he said, "and stay quiet." As they moved toward the mountains, Jun asked quietly, "Is it true you've killed 20 Wolven by yourself?" Ta didn't answer. The legend of Lionheart was growing, and maybe that was exactly what they needed. The mountain cave was crowded now. 7 humans lived there, planning and working together. Ho-sun had improved Ta's suit with metal parts from the colony. Jin had taught everyone about Wolven behavior. Jun and Jai hunted for food. Nari helped treat wounds. But they needed more information. They needed to know what the Wolven were planning. "I need to get inside their main camp," Ta said during their evening meeting. Jin shook her head. "Too dangerous. There are hundreds of Wolven there." "That's why I must go alone," Ta said. "One person can move quietly. One person can hide." No one argued. They had seen what Tai could do. That night, Ta moved toward the center of the ruined colony. The main Wolven camp was in the old town square. They had built new structures and had guards everywhere. Ta didn't wear his Lionheart suit tonight. Instead, he wore dirty clothes taken from the ruins. He rubbed dirt and ash on his face and hands. From a distance, in the dark, he might look like a Wolven. He crawled through broken buildings, getting closer to the camp. He found a good spot on the roof of an old store. From there, he could see the whole camp. In the center was a large building with many lights. Guards stood at its door. Important wolven went in and out. The command center, Ta whispered to himself. Then he saw something that made his heart beat faster. Humans. At least 10 of them, working under guard. They carried boxes and fixed equipment. They looked thin and tired. One human caught Ta's attention, a woman with long hair tied back. She wore a translator's badge on her shirt. The wolven guard spoke to her often. She seemed to have more freedom than the others. Ta watched for hours. He saw the wolven leader, Dadran, for the first time. He was larger than the others, with a scar across his face. He moved with anger and shouted often at his soldiers. As the night grew late, Tai decided to get closer. He needed to hear what they were saying. He climbed down from the roof and moved from shadow to shadow. He got close enough to see inside a large tent near the command building. Inside were strange machines. The human workers were building something big. The translator woman stood nearby, talking to a wolven officer. Ta moved closer to hear. "The weapon will be ready in 10 days, she said. Then it can destroy the mountain hideouts, just as Commander Dayran ordered. Tay's blood went cold. They were building a weapon to attack the mountains, to kill any humans hiding there. He needed to learn more. He waited until the translator woman walked alone to a small building. It looked like where the human workers slept. Tai took a big risk. He moved quickly across open ground and slipped inside the building after her. The woman turned, surprised. Before she could scream, Tai put his hand over her mouth. "I won't hurt you," he whispered. "I'm Ta Kim. Some call me Lionheart." The woman's eyes went wide. When Tai removed his hand, she didn't scream. "I'm Min Ji," she said quietly. "I've heard of you. Many of us have." "What are they building?" Tai asked. Min Ji looked at the door, afraid someone might come in. "A sonic cannon," she said. "It will cause landslides in the mountains. Nowhere will be safe." "How do you know their plans?" "I'm their translator. I hear everything." Min Ji moved closer. "But they don't know that I change small things. I slow their work. I misplace parts." Tai was surprised. "You're sabotaging them." Min Ji nodded. "We all do what we can. Some of us fight with guns. Some of us fight with words and small actions." Then she told Tai something important. The wolven have sacred objects. Totems. They unite the different packs. 3 totems are kept in Dairan's private tent. Without them, the packs might fight each other. Tai understood what this meant. "Where is this tent?" Min Ji was about to answer when footsteps approached the door. "You must go," she whispered. "Come back tomorrow night. I'll have more information." Ta slipped out through a back window just as the door opened. A wolven guard looked inside. "Who were you talking to?" The guard asked Min Ji. "Just to myself," she answered. "It helps me remember your great commander's orders." The guard seemed satisfied and left. Ta moved back into the shadows, his mind racing with new information. The weapon, the totems, the brave humans working against the wolven from inside. The war had just become more complicated and more urgent. "We need to steal one of the totems," Ta told his group back at the mountain cave. "Min Ji says it will cause chaos among the wolven packs." "Too dangerous," Jin argued. "The totems will be heavily guarded." Ho Sun nodded in agreement. "And even if you get in, how will you escape with hundreds of wolven after you?" Ta had thought about this all night. "I don't plan to escape. Not right away." He showed them a rough map of the wolven camp he had drawn. "The totems are kept here, in Dairan's tent. Next to it is their supply area. If we set fires there, the confusion will let me grab a totem and hide inside the camp itself." "Hide? Where?" Nari asked. "In the old sewer tunnels under the colony." Ta pointed to his map. "Min Ji says they're still open. The wolven don't use them because they hate the smell." The group talked for hours. Finally, they agreed on a plan. It was dangerous, but it might work. 3 days later, Ta met Min-ji again. This time they talked in the shadows behind the human workers' building. "The guards will change at midnight," Min-ji whispered. "That's the best time. I've told the other humans to be ready." "Ready for what?" Tai asked. "To run. When the chaos starts, some want to escape." Ta hadn't planned for this. "That's too risky. The Wolven will hunt them down. They'd rather die trying to escape than build a weapon that kills other humans," Min-ji said firmly. "We all would." Ta saw the determination in her eyes. He nodded. "Tell them to run toward the North Forest. We'll have people there to guide them to safety." At midnight, Tai was in position. He wore his Lionheart suit, hidden in the shadows near the supply area. Ho-sun and Jun were at the edge of the camp, ready to shoot flaming arrows. Ta watched the guard change. For a few minutes, the camp was less guarded as Wolven shifted positions. Now, Ta whispered into his radio. Flaming arrows flew through the night sky. They landed on the dry wood of the supply piles. Fire spread quickly. Wolven howled in alarm. They ran to fight the fires. More arrows came, starting new fires in different places. Ta moved fast through the confusion. He ran to Dai Ran's tent. 2 guards still stood there, looking nervously at the fires nearby. Tai didn't try to hide. He charged directly at them, firing his rifle. 1 guard fell. The other raised its weapon. Tai didn't slow down. He crashed into the guard, knocking it down. His knife ended the fight quickly. Inside the tent was surprisingly simple. A bed, maps on a table, and on a small altar, 3 stone objects. The totems. Each was carved to look like a Wolven head with jewels for eyes. Ta grabbed the smallest one and put it in his pack. As he turned to leave, he came face to face with Dai Ran himself. The Wolven commander was even bigger up close. His yellow eyes burned with hate. "Lionheart," he growled. At last. Dai Ran swung a heavy club. Ta ducked, but the blow still caught his shoulder. Pain shot through his arm. Ta rolled away and fired his rifle. The shot hit Dai Ran in the leg. The commander howled but didn't fall. Outside, Wolven were shouting. They would come to their leader's aid any second. Ta had no time to fight. He threw his last smoke bomb. As the tent filled with thick smoke, he slashed with his knife, catching Dai Ran across the chest. Then he ran, not toward the camp edge, but deeper into the colony. Wolven chased him, howling in rage. Ta led them away from the humans who were escaping in the other direction. He reached an old street and pulled up a heavy metal cover. The sewer entrance. He jumped down into the darkness as shots fired overhead. The tunnels smelled terrible. They were narrow and filled with old water, but the Wolven wouldn't follow him here. Above, he could hear chaos. Wolven shouted orders. Some argued with each other. The theft of the totem was already causing problems. Ta moved through the dark tunnels. In his pack, the stolen totem seemed to grow heavier with each step. The first part of the plan had worked, but the hard part was still to come. Somehow, he needed to get back to the mountains, and the entire Wolven war pack would be hunting for him. 3 days passed. Ta lived in the sewers, moving only at night. Above ground, the Wolven searched everywhere. They were angry and confused. The stolen totem had done its job. On the 4th day, Ta found a way out of the sewers far from the main camp. He climbed out into the ruins of the colony school building. From there, he made his way back to the mountains. His friends greeted him with joy. They had feared he was dead. Min-ji and 14 others made it to us, Jin told him. They're at the 2nd cave now. And the Wolven? Tai asked. Ho-sun smiled. Fighting each other. With the totem gone, 3 different pack leaders are arguing about who should be in charge. Ta put the stolen totem on the ground. It was made of dark stone with red jewel eyes. Everyone stared at it. What do we do with it? Jun asked. We use it, Ta said. And we use this too. He pulled out a small device he had taken from Dai Ran's tent. It was a Wolven communication unit, more powerful than the one he had stolen before. This can send messages to all Wolven at once, Todd explained. Dayran uses it to give orders. Ho-Sun took the device and studied it. I think I can make it work. What do you want to say? Tai thought for a moment. I want to challenge Dayran. Directly, 1 against 1. Everyone looked shocked. That's suicide, Neri said. He's twice your size. I don't plan to fight fair, Tai replied. But the challenge is important. Minji told me that in Wolven culture, a pack leader can't refuse a direct challenge. If he does, he loses respect. So either he fights you and might lose, or he refuses and looks weak. Jin said, understanding. But he could just ignore our customs. He won't, Minji said, entering the cave. Dayran is proud. Too proud. He hates humans because he lost to them once before. Everyone turned to look at her. What do you mean? Tai asked. Before he became a commander, his pack was defeated by human soldiers. He was the only survivor. The shame nearly killed him. Minji explained. Now he's obsessed with proving Wolven's superiority. This was valuable information. Ta now understood his enemy better. Then he will accept my challenge, Ta said. And that's exactly what we need. For the next 2 days, Ho-Sun worked on the communication device while Ta and the others planned. They chose the location for the challenge carefully, the ruins of the colony's main square. They prepared traps and escape routes. Finally, they were ready. Ta put on his Lionheart suit, now improved with better armor and weapons. He held the stolen totem in one hand. Send the message, he told Ho-Sun. Ho-Sun activated the device. Ta spoke clearly. This is Lionheart. I challenge Dayran to face me alone in the colony square tomorrow at sunset. No packs, no help, just him and me. I have your sacred totem. If he wins, he gets it back. If he refuses, every Wolven will know their leader fears one human. The message went out to every Wolven in the area. They waited for a response. It came an hour later. Dayran's voice growled through the device. I accept your challenge, human. Tomorrow at sunset. But know this. When I kill you, I will hunt down every human left on this planet. After the message ended, the cave was quiet. Then Minji spoke. He won't come alone. That's not his way. He'll bring his entire war pack. I'm counting on it, Ta said. That's why I chose the square. We've prepared it for days, and that's why the rest of you will be in position around it. Jin looked worried. This is very dangerous, Ta. All of you have fought in your own ways, Ta said. Minji with her quiet sabotage. Ho-Sun with his technical skills. The rest of you by surviving. Now we fight together. He looked at each person in the cave. Tomorrow, we show the Wolven that humans are not weak because we stand alone. We are strong because we choose to stand together. Neri raised her rifle. For New Soul. 1 by 1, the others joined her. For New Soul. As night fell, Tai stood at the cave entrance, looking at the stars. Tomorrow would decide everything. His mind was calm. Whatever happened, the Wolven would never forget the name Lionheart. The sun began to set over the ruins of New Soul. Long shadows stretched across the colony's main square. Ta stood in the center, alone. He wore his Lionheart suit, now covered with marks and scratches from many battles. The stolen totem hung at his belt. He waited, calm and still. Jin's voice came through his small radio. They're coming. Many of them. At least 200. As expected, Tay replied quietly. Is everyone ready? Yes. Ho-Sun's traps are set. Jun and Jai have the high positions. Minji and the others are in place. Tay took a deep breath. Remember, wait for my signal. The sound of marching feet grew louder. Then they appeared. A massive force of Wolven warriors. They filled the streets leading to the square. In front walked Dayran, his yellow eyes fixed on Ta. The Wolven commander stepped forward alone. He carried a large blade in one hand. His other arm ended in a metal claw, something Tai hadn't seen before. Lionheart, Ran growled. You are either very brave or very stupid. I could say the same about you, Tay replied. I challenged you to come alone, yet you bring an army. Ran laughed, a harsh sound. I am never alone. That is the weakness of humans. You think being alone makes you strong. No, Ta said. Having a choice makes us strong. We choose when to stand alone and when to stand together. He looked past Ran at the Wolven warriors. They follow you because they must, because pack law demands it. They have no choice. Some of the Wolven shifted uncomfortably. Ran noticed and growled. Enough talk. Give me the totem, and I might kill you quickly. Ta shook his head. You know the terms. You must defeat me to get it back. Very well. Ran raised his blade. Then he stopped and smiled. But first, let me show you something. He turned and barked an order. 4 Wolven stepped forward, pushing a human prisoner. It was Minji. Tad's heart sank. How had they captured her? She was supposed to be in position with the others. Your spy, Ran said, found trying to plant explosives near my new troops. Did you think I wouldn't recognize her scent? She has been in my camp for years. Minji looked at Ta. Her face was bruised, but her eyes were clear. She gave him a small nod. Tai understood. This was not their Minji. This was another brave human trying to help, but he couldn't let Ran know that. Let her go, Ta said. This is between you and me. Nothing is just between 2 individuals, Ran replied. That is human thinking. For us, everything affects the pack. He raised his blade to Minji's throat. Surrender now, or she dies first. It was time. Ta touched a button on his wrist. Then he shouted, Now. Explosions erupted around the square. Smoke filled the air. Gunfire came from buildings on all sides. The human resistance attacked. In the confusion, Tai rushed forward. He tackled Ran, knocking him away from the prisoner. Run, he shouted to the woman. She didn't wait. Ran recovered quickly. He swung his blade, barely missing Ta's head. His metal claw caught Ta's arm, tearing through the suit. Ta rolled away, then fired his rifle. The shot hit Ran's shoulder. The Wolven commander didn't even slow down. Around them, chaos ruled. Ho-Sun's traps, pits, wire snares, and small bombs divided the Wolven forces. Human gunfire from hidden positions caused more confusion. Wolven warriors couldn't tell where to attack. Ta led Ran through the ruins, drawing him away from his troops. The Wolven commander followed, driven by rage. Face me, Lionheart, Ran shouted. Stop running. Ta ducked into a half-collapsed building. Inside, he had prepared his final trap, a room with only one way in and no way out. Ran followed him inside. He stopped at the doorway, suddenly cautious. Is this where you plan to die, human? He asked. Tav stood in the center of the room. This is where the hunt ends, Ran, one way or another. The Wolven commander stepped into the room. The door closed behind him with a heavy thud. Now they were truly alone. Hunter and hunted. Predator and prey. But which was which remained to be seen. The room was dark except for rays of fading sunlight through holes in the ceiling. Tai and Ran circled each other slowly. The Wolven commander was bigger, stronger, but Ta had prepared for this moment. You trapped us both in here, Ran said. A strange choice for someone who likes to run and hide. I never ran from you, Tai replied. I just chose when and where to fight. Ran laughed. And you choose to die here, alone. I'm not afraid of being alone, Ta said. That's the difference between us. Ran's yellow eyes narrowed. What do you mean, human? You fear being alone, Ta said. All Wolven do. You need the pack. You need others around you. But now, there's just you and me. For the first time, Ta saw uncertainty in Dairan's eyes. The Wolven commander looked at the sealed door, then back at Ta. Lies. Dairan roared and charged forward. Ta was ready. He dodged the first swing of Dairan's blade. The second swing caught his shoulder, cutting through his suit. Pain shot through Ta's arm. Ta fired his rifle. The shot hit Dairan's leg. The Wolven stumbled but kept coming. His metal claw slashed at Ta's chest, tearing the suit open. They fought in the small room, moving in the dust and shadow. Ta was faster, but every hit from Dairan caused damage. Soon, Ta's suit was torn in many places. Blood ran down his arm and side. Dairan wasn't unarmed. 3 shots had hit him. Ta's knife had cut his good arm. But the Wolven was incredibly strong. You fight well, for a human, Dairan said, breathing hard. But you will die like all the others. Not today, Ta said. He backed up against a wall. His hand found a hidden switch. Suddenly, bright lights turned on. Very bright lights. Wolven eyes were made for hunting in the dark. The sudden brightness was painful for Dairan. He howled and covered his eyes. Ta didn't waste the chance. He rushed forward and slammed his full weight into Dairan. The Wolven commander fell backward onto the floor. Ta stood over him, rifle pointed at his head. It's over, Ta said. Dairan lay there, bleeding and half-blind from the lights. For the first time, he looked afraid. Do it, he growled. Kill me. That's what humans do. Ta thought about all the dead humans, the burned colony, his friends who had died. He thought about Captain Han's last orders. His finger tightened on the trigger. Then he remembered his grandfather's words. 1 brave heart can be stronger than 100 fearful ones. Ta lowered his rifle. No, he said. Killing you won't bring anyone back, and it won't show you why humans are strong. Dairan looked confused. What are you doing? Making a choice, Ta said. That's what humans do. We choose our path. I choose not to kill you. He stepped back and hit another switch. The door opened. Outside, the sounds of battle had faded. Go, Ta said. Tell your packs what happened here. Tell them a human defeated you but let you live. Tell them what real strength looks like. Dairan slowly got to his feet. He looked at Todd with new eyes. You are strange, Lionheart, he said. I don't understand you. That's why you lost, Tay replied. Dairan moved toward the door. Then he stopped and turned. This isn't over, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Yes, it is, Ta said firmly. Take your packs and leave this planet. If you return, we'll be waiting. All of us. As if to prove his point, Jin and Ho-sun appeared at the doorway, rifles ready. Behind them stood more humans, all armed. Dairan looked at them, then back at Ta. Without another word, he left. 3 days later, the Wolven ships left the planet. The human survivors watched them go from the hills above the ruined colony. Will they come back? Jun asked. Maybe, Ta said, but we'll be ready if they do. Minji pointed to the sky. Look, a small dot of light appeared. A ship. A human ship. The data chip, Jin said excitedly. Earth got our warning. They've come to help. Ta smiled. They had survived. Against all odds, they had won. That night, as everyone celebrated, Ta walked alone to a quiet spot. He looked at the stars and thought about everything that had happened. One person could make a difference. One heart could be strong enough to change everything. The Lionheart had roared, and the packs had learned to fear not just his claws, but his courage.